This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. This is Deborah Johnson, and it's great to be back with you today with a subject I think is very relevant, not only for today, but for really the future, many years to come. The importance of being proactive versus reactive in life and business. It's a great subject to approach. Before I do that, I really want you to know about this free webinar we have coming up, How to Develop a Side Business That Will Last Through Any Economy. One of my most popular downloads, free downloads, has been a side business template. And I thought I'd put together a free webinar to introduce this great subject here, to last through any economy. So how to develop a side business that will last through any economy is an absolutely free webinar coming up. And you can get to the link to sign up. I have several dates available. anewayofdoingbusiness.com. So just go right there, anewayofdoingbusiness.com. And I hope you join us for one of those. It's absolutely free. You will get also a wonderful download that will really help you to be able to plan for the future. So let's get to this subject, being proactive versus reactive in life and business. The reason that I really wanted to approach this today is I'm seeing some that during our time that we've been through, these months that we've been through of sequestration, of isolation, of businesses being closed for at least a period of time, I see some that have taken advantage of the opportunities and then some not as open to change and pivoting. And I felt like this is a very important mindset to be able to approach because so much lies in our mindsets. And life is full of opportunity to be both proactive and reactive with a healthy mindset. And I will connect the two of those today. Now, the difference between proactive and reactive, most of you are listening would be able to have this idea of what the difference is, of course, but is one more important than the other? And most entrepreneurs will tell you that being proactive is more important. And I definitely agree, but it's also very important to be reactive. And being proactive is creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen rather than just responding to it after it happens. And reactive is responding to a situation rather than just creating or controlling it. Although being reactive, you can end up controlling the situation by being proactive through reactive. So anyway, I'm not going to go around in that circle too much today. But in my opinion, you need to be both proactive and reactive in today's world. And with so many unknowns with what the future holds, being proactive in implementing new sustainable business courses and programs is really imperative. And in the same way, how we respond to what is out of our control is also really important. And that's where our mindsets come in. We can choose to whether we want to respond with just panic, feeling stressed out, and even desperate, or with a calm, intentional commitment to figuring out a solution. If you're just, fly off the handle thinking, well, I just give up. And there's days that you just feel like that when you're thinking, okay, is this really going to work? I've pivoted on my business, but is it really going to work? Is anybody going to buy this? And in fact, just today, as I am recording this podcast, I had decided on a new little email campaign where it was going to be dripped out throughout this whole week. I'm finishing up one campaign for my music membership, and it was supposed to be dripped out every single day. Well, what happened was all of those emails went at once to my whole email list, and it wasn't supposed to happen that way. And immediately after something like that happens, I mean, there's a real feeling like, well, should I just give up? Should I just never do this again? That's exactly what you feel like. So, but I think to get by that, we have to take this proactive, intentional look at it to see now, okay, let's just look at the situation and go from there. So in this episode, I'm going to be outlining 3 areas that we will look at proactive and reactive. Number 1, when a disaster strikes. Okay. And number 2, when finances crumble. And then number 3, when you really need to pivot. So number 1, when a disaster strikes. And we'll look at proactive responses and reactive responses. And to be proactive, before a disaster would even happen, is to create some sort of backup plan. So being proactive, such as we're in California, so we're always told that, okay, there could be the next big earthquake. So do I have enough water? Do I have enough canned goods? Do I have enough blankets? Do I have enough for that big disaster? And I tell you, I check on those now and then, but it's not top of mind. I'm saying that this needs to be a little bit more top of mind when moving forward, especially as we've just experienced such a big shutdown of many businesses worldwide. And with this recent virus, many businesses had to shut down overnight and shift completely. Some are shifting to this online platform. And the online platform may have been completely foreign to them before. They are learning. I have a neighbor, she may be listening to this right now, she'll probably smile, but she teaches piano. And I talked to her about a different platform, putting the lessons online that would make it a lot easier so she can continue teaching. And she was feeling very tech challenged, and good for her that she was learning this in a proactive way. Restaurants that created a pickup or delivery service, they have a chance of surviving through all of this, especially if they already had a regular clientele. But for those that rely on drive-by or regional seasonal traffic, this is a tough one to be proactive. So as we think through this, disasters ahead, we want to think of how we could survive as well as serve others through those times. And I know some that are doing extremely well because that's been their focus, is to help others as well. And we all help each other in that. To be reactive, well, this is the perfect time when disaster hits to now create your backup plan if you didn't have one previously. But don't panic. Just think and be creative. And many great ideas, as we've seen this from our history, especially here in the United States, really worldwide we see this, that new ideas, great ideas come and great inventions come out of time of hardship and change. I mean, how many things came out from the Great Depression, like even the automobile, as they figured out a way to do this. So there are many things that can happen here, great things, as we react and then put those proactive principles in place. And if times of disaster are used as times of opportunity, what seems like a tragedy could have surprisingly successful outcomes. And so this is time to see that they both work together really, really well, but it comes down to how we are approaching those. But definitely, when you're thinking about disasters coming, definitely have that backup plan. That's a very smart thing. And I'm not covering everything you need to do in this one episode, but this is a start of thinking proactively, but also realizing that being reactive is a big part of the equation. So we're going to move to finances. When finances crumble, this is a big one, and what many have been facing at this time. To be proactive is to follow mom's advice or maybe dad's advice and save for a rainy day. And it's really an area where being proactive is really the best choice in our finances. But we'll also discuss ways we can be reactive in a healthy way. But to be proactive, it's been suggested to have at least 3 months of income put aside for your business. And this is just for your business, so your business can stay afloat, such as if you have a lease agreement or whatever, you need to be putting that aside. Now, I go a little further because I am married to a man who has been in the financial industry for many years, and you'll hear him on this podcast. I have him in with me once a month. It is so much fun. We have so much fun. But he suggests 4 months because he knows it takes 3 months really to kind of get back going, and you need that extra little buffer. So it takes a lot to be able to come up with that extra. But those that had this saved before what we were recently hit with the COVID-19 shutdown, they were able to immediately pivot. And most also cut back the bare bones on unnecessary expenses. And this enabled them to further expand in areas that would better serve their clients, and also for them to be able to continue doing some of the things that they were doing, except for now they were isolated. So they were set up to be able to do online video conferencing, all of that sort of thing. So but being proactive and being able to have some of those tools and saving for those and making sure you have those handy is very, very important. But also consistently evaluating your budget is important. And I have to do this. I'm as guilty as many, but I find many entrepreneurs are membership poor with monthly subscriptions that amount to so much in cost, and some aren't even being utilized. And I've seen this especially with LMS, which are learning platforms, that people sign up because they get this huge discount and they have this special code and they get that for the lifetime of their subscription. But if they let it expire, now all of a sudden they don't get that special deal. So they don't let it expire. But then month after month after month, they're paying and they're not even utilizing the program. Really look at those really hard right now. A lot of these programs are sold just with those little discounts to get hooks in the water. And I've been guilty of the exact same things. And if you know where the money is going, then you can more effectively trim. I've started to write down all of the subscriptions. You know, I have a video platform that I can get licensed video because I use a lot of video. I have that yearly subscription. I have my email subscription, my newsletter subscription. I have, a lot of extra ones that I have as well. But I really go through this yearly and even more often if something like this hits, and I'll share what I have just done there too. But to be able to trim it down just a little bit. Now, our forefathers definitely have had to trim in the past, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the reactive section of this. But keep that record of what you're spending, and it might be just on your yearly budget. But I'd put it somewhere that you could look at it often if it's a monthly subscription. Now, some of those I do subscribe for the full year, so such as my membership software platform. I subscribe to that for a full year because I get a much better deal, and I know I'm going to be with them for the long haul. I am not changing platforms. It's a lot of work to change a platform, first of all, but I've also been very, very happy with them. So, but understand where that money is going and what you can trim. Now, to be reactive in the financial area, and this is not my top area of talking about it. There's more experts here, but I have run a business for a very, very long time, and I've paid off my projects completely. So I have the freedom to use the products as a promotional tool, and it's gotten me a lot of work, and I've been able to invest in my business that way. But when these big disasters sort of hit, or when we're thinking about finances and being reactive, if all of a sudden you are in debt and you're just having a hard time, you're thinking, when can I ever dig out of this? I mean, people are in this credit card debt, they're in all sorts of debt, and that's really tough. And so sometimes we just have to be reactive and do some drastic things because we have to make a choice to survive and even prosper. So either react in a smart way to slash expenses and cut your losses, or you're going to panic. And I never discount the power of entrepreneurialism with the sheer determination and tenacity of determined individuals, really to get through these hard times. Our forefathers definitely did it, and they lived through a major depression. And personally, I cut one of my monthly subscriptions I hadn't used in over 3 months. And I debated about it. I thought, maybe I'll use it next month. Maybe I'll use it. And I didn't. And I thought, I can always come back to it. And I wondered why I feel a little sheepish, why I even held on to it that long, because I knew other of my colleagues, they were cutting their expenses, and I thought that's one area I could really cut. And it wasn't a whole lot, and I felt a little sheepish, a little bit, not only that I hadn't cut it sooner, but also that it wasn't a huge amount, but I do know it adds up. And so I felt, it's almost like trimming leaves that are sucker branches off of a tree, which actually I love to do, by the way. It's very fulfilling, by the way. Yes, I just really feel like I'm accomplishing something. We have a lot of citrus and fruit trees on our property. And so, if I need a total break, I go out and I just trim away. But that's what it feels like, that you are making room for good growth and new growth. So that's what it happens when you are trimming back some of that. And that's what I felt when I took this this particular subscription off. And I can rejoin if I want to in the future. And I always think of my dear grandmother, Mimi. And she saved, just like many of your relatives that are older, she saved tinfoil and baggies until the day she died, because she came through a huge, severe depression. In fact, my parents saved baggies. Oh my goodness, the number of baggies that we went through when they passed. And when you live through those tough times, you learn and you regroup and save. And, we can be critical of that, thinking, why are they saving all this stuff? But then you realize it's just because of those hard times and all the sacrifice that they made so I could have the life I have right now. And we have to realize there's times that we need to sacrifice for our future and for our businesses. And that's a really good lesson. That's something that I need to remind myself of as I journal and as I really focus on those really healthy mindsets. So our third area, now we've covered when disaster strikes and when finances crumble. Oh my goodness. So being proactive and reactive. But number 3, it's kind of putting this together, is when you need to pivot. Pivot is a huge word right now, and a pivot is usually a hard turn one way or the other. It's not just this little round, easy turn. It's usually hard, like a total pivot. So if you're a dancer and you're just pivoting, it's a hard turn there. So, and this can happen, personally or professionally multiple times through our lives, especially personally as well. When I speak to those at the halftime of life, there's a lot that happens at the halftime, even with relationships. Those are the times that many couples that have been together for years, all of a sudden they find they're going different directions, completely different directions. Well, what do? That's usually when a big split happens. So many times it does. So, but let's talk about being proactive and reactive in this area when you need to pivot, because we all know that there are times ahead where we will need to pivot, period. We will need to do that. So to be proactive is to keep a lifelong learning attitude, consistently reading and networking to keep our options open for the future. Because why? We know change is always lurking around the next curve. And I just had a great conversation today, excuse me, about optimizing my website. Thank you so much, Vina. She was a recent interview on our podcast, which she is the co-founder of Digital Access Pass. That's the membership program I have. But we were talking about optimizing because some of my images and everything were just loading very, very slowly. And I was, just really puzzled by this. So brilliant and very gracious Vina got on a call with me and took me to the back end of my website, showing me some things and how to further optimize my blog pages, especially, and my articles, because they were loading slow. And I wanted to be more proactive for the future, because I've got some great articles, but they were loading slow, and then it stops people from reading. And I knew I needed to make some changes, but I've had so much going that I thought, you know what? A lot of times I just do this stuff myself. I do have some developers on the back end, and now I know exactly what to tell them to do. I need to set it up first, but then they can export that for me, and we can start that process. And to really make sure that everything is optimized for the future. That is being proactive, because this next year I foresee a lot of growth in my business, and I don't want a slow loading website or article pages to hold up the actual growth of a membership site. And a healthy and forward thinking yet realistic mindset will help the most. And if you've been proactive with your finances, you'll be in a better position to assertively then pivot, as you'll experience a greater freedom with some of those necessary changes. And we see change coming. We know it is going to come. That's one thing we always know. We don't know what the future holds, but we know there will be change. So we want to be able to at least have that mindset and the reading that we have and the proactive learning attitude and the journaling, the habit of journaling. It's one of the best you can develop, by the way, of just every morning just spending a couple minutes doing that. Because, there may be another huge tidal wave that hits. It may not be a tsunami, but it might be something like COVID-19, when tomorrow your business has to be shut down. Or your physical, at least, business. So we want to be able to have that proactive mindset and a couple things in place to be able to do that for a complete pivot or complete turn. For reactive, with unexpected turns, we need to usually act very quickly, but not too abruptly or rashly as to crash and burn. As you watch a race car going around a turn, they have to go fast, but hopefully they won't crash and burn. And if you're truly not prepared for any change, you are going to quickly have to put some sort of plan in place. And your plan will somewhat depend on what freedom you have financially, going back to the finances, as to the scope, really, of what you can do. But the main principle here is not to totally panic, and it's to use the possibility of a pivot to grow, to learn, and create positive change. And that's a healthy mindset that'll carry you through many of life's challenges, no matter if they're relationships, if they are physical. What about the physical challenges many have? We've got pretty much a worldwide population that is many are facing diabetes, obesity. Many have heart problems stemming from this, and many of the COVID-19 patients and those that were really struggling with this had some of those diabetics or problems or pre-existing conditions. So we are facing some of these health challenges as well. Fortunately, I've had fairly good health, but there's been a couple times that have been very challenging. So understanding that those are going to be ahead, not making these rash turns, but to be able to use our minds, wisdom, and be able to. I had to take a break at one point for 3 weeks from my business because of a a physical setback that I needed to deal with. And financially, I had to be able to survive there as well. So it happens to all of us. So with every challenge, as situations arise, we can react positively or negatively. And our reactive responses, I'm getting into the reactive and proactive here, but our reactive responses, they bring proactive action. So, hey, that is so cool. They really work together. So the reactive brings proactive action. Boy, say that 10 times in a row. But there will be other disasters. We know this. We've gone through some hurricanes and floods like Katrina, like Harvey, and through 9/11, which was a terrible tragedy, and recently COVID-19. But being intentional with a proactive plan, so you're able to be, more prepared to even be reactive, will be even more necessary in the coming months and years. But with the flexibility to react in a way that will really move you forward and to keep you centered in your life and in your business, because your personal life is so connected to your professional life. So I hope this has encouraged you in many ways as we've gone through these 3 areas, which being proactive, reactive, when you've had a disaster strikes, when finances crumble, or when you need to pivot. And all of them are kind of connected, actually, together and work together. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And I hope you'll be back with me next week. I have a really great interview I think you're really going to enjoy. It is the future of event planning and importance of collaboration. Now, event planning is one of the businesses that totally shut down. Totally. Weddings, the hotels shut down, even Las Vegas, everything shut down with events. And even some of the large events, they were canceled like the rest of like the calendar year. It's huge. I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, but what is the future? What does she feel the future is? Peggy Kelly, I'm bringing her in. She is a local entrepreneur that has been an event planner for years. She does mostly weddings, or has done mostly weddings, but she's done a lot of events, even from the nonprofit. And what the principles that she has applied in collaborating with others, I think is really, really important for today's world and today's society, not only in event planning. And I come from the artist side of business as well, to where I've done a lot of live events, a lot of live concerts, a lot of live speaking engagements. All of those shut down for a long period of time, and people are being very, very creative, but they want to get back to work too. So what is the future, the immediate future, and then how long will it be before we can really get back to what feels like sort of a normal time? So you will enjoy that. So thanks again for joining me today. If you've liked this, please leave me a review. I would love that. And tell your friends and subscribe. Would love you to do that. So this is Deborah Johnson with goalsforyourlife.com, with womenathalftime.com, and I will look forward to being with you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.